Oh god, that's 41 fantasy systems now tiered. Moro moro, and welcome to Culinary Gaming. I am Walter, and I'm glad you found me. I had an idea to make this chill, quick video about different fantasy role-playing systems. You know, just to have a moment to gush and talk about all the different systems I have played over the years. Yeah, no big deal. It took me 4 hours to film the video. It turns out 10 years can fit quite many games. But I was already invested into the subject, so I went through with it. And now I can present to you Culinary Gaming's ultimate fantasy TTRPG tier list. I had to cut the video to 3 parts, so this is the first video. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see the other parts as well. This really was a daunting task, but I hope that with these videos I can shed some light to some fantasy systems that you might have never heard before. And I would also want to invite some other content creators to join and complete this challenge to really spread out the fantasy TTRPG awareness. First content creator I would like to call to action is Trevor Deval from Me, Myself and I. Why Trevor, you ask? Well, first of all, have you seen this guy's shelves? Like, dear lord, I really start to think that he is a sage after all. Yeah, Trevor clearly has a lot of experience, especially with the fantasy genre. And I have also discovered some of the games that I am going to introduce to you here through Trevor's videos. So yeah, that's why I would really love to see his ultimate fantasy tier list. The second content creator I would love to call into action is Bob the World Builder. So why Bob? I have watched Bob's videos and I really feel like we are two very different GMs who wants to create very similar kind of experience with very different means. I think that is wonderful. That just shows how many different ways there is to be a dungeon master and be a game master and have great results through tabletop role-playing games. And the results are the enjoyment of the players and the GM. He could provide a healthy alternative point of view to this fantasy tier list. Comment down below the content creator that you would love to see to make a fantasy TTRPG tier list. And now let's jump in to the first part of Culinary Gaming Ultimate Fantasy TTRPG tier list. Okay, I think it's quite wise to establish some ground rules. First of all the games I will present I have experienced and played. There are few exceptions that I will name personally, and they will probably go into the gray area. They are like on a baseline B tier before I have actually tried the systems. Overall, they seem like really good games that I want to try sometime. So if you don't see your game on the top, don't, just calm down and tell me all about it, how I'm wrong, in the comments below. I definitely want to hear your experiences from these games. We have also 2 extra tiers. First we have LPHGM, which means I would love to play it as a player, but I would hate to GM it. And finally we have a tier called Never Played and Probably Never Will. And I want to emphasize this doesn't mean that it would be a bad game, or it doesn't mean that I wouldn't like the rules. It just means that I probably will never have the chance, time, ability, energy, or the fitting group to play that game. Sometimes there are just great rules that are not meant for you, and that's why the Never Played here is right there. Okay, first contender, 13th Age, I'm sorry. I think it really encapsulates the heroic fantasy genre really well. I enjoy its systems on that all player characters are intertwined with the different factions, and those factions have actual like mechanical meaning in the game that come in play during adventures. And overall it's like just really good heroic mayhem, like really epic scale of heroic fantasy of powerful characters against all odds, against all gods kind of play. I would probably still put it on B tier. It's so close of being an A tier. I think objectively 13th Age should be on A tier, but this is my personal list, and talking about heroic fantasy, there are few other games in the list that I will probably always pick before 13th Age. So that's why 13th Age is only B tier for me. But like escalating combat rounds, and that you can have like this very tactical combat with theater of the mind, it's just really good. I highly recommend 13th Age. Another big kid on the block, Fantasy Age. Fantasy Age has also really good systems supporting it. I really enjoy the 3d6 resolution with the stunt die and the stunt points, and during combat and even other aspects of the game you can have these stunt points and add into your skill checks or attribute checks. I really don't like the HP creep that the game has, and I think overall balancing wise the game really starts to escalate like 5th edition, which I really don't personally enjoy that much. Like in 13th Age your HP goes up, but also your damage goes up, and overall like the pacing of the combat stays the same, but it starts to slow down in Fantasy Age as well. So that's why I will also put Fantasy Age on the B tier for now. Next we have Mithras. Yeah, Mithras is really good game. We actually played this with my friend group last summer, and it was the learning curve for this game is it's not the most complex game I have ever played, but it's definitely there is a lot to take in with the combat special effects, and when you have like hit location stuff with each creature and each player. But luckily we played locally, and I have so good like player group that can take initiative on different things, not only in combat. But yeah, they can really help out to keep tabs on the initiative and keep tabs on like all the different conditions and attacks. So definitely if I would have this kind of freeloader group of players that really, or like new players that really don't know what to do, I really wouldn't recommend this game. But if you have like a friend group that trusts you, it's really good. Like you can customize it so many ways, and the spell casting rules are so awesome. Like it's really open-ended, and this game really plays well if you have a friend group that make up things on the fly. We played this in a hex crawl open world where I also like partially made creatures on the fly, and while it worked it was quite stressful. So I wouldn't like 100% recommend that way of gameplay with the system, but definitely I want to put this on A tier. Grittier fantasy system with much more grounded characters. And now we have Iron Sworn is like, again, objectively, if I would like just do an objective list, I would put it instantly on S tier. Iron Sworn has become like a new standard in solo tabletop role playing. The way the Iron Sworn has changed like the whole field of solo role plays is just amazing. The dice resolution is really good. The character sheet is well made, and like the whole world, how Iron Sworn works, it's just like, it really is the whole package in a sense. But this is my personal tier list. I will put Iron Sworn only on A tier. I really wanted a little bit more from the Iron Sworn. You have lots of different moves, but at some point it just needed a little bit more game in there. For me, with my personal taste. Like, it is amazing to tell solo stories or co-op stories, but overall like how damage is dealt, how spirit is affected, and how much your character's individual skills affect the actual gameplay, I wish there was a little bit more. Definitely A tier if you have not played Iron Sworn yet and you are like a solo player, or you don't even have to be a solo player, you can just take a small group and play this game without a GM, for example. So really, really check it out. It's free. Like, what are you doing? Just go. Go. Fly, my child. Next we have Hornmaster. Oh yeah. Like Hornmaster, I would love to put it on S tier, but I can't because it's so specific game as well. Like it's right here with Mithras. This might be a controversial take, so bear with me. But I think Hornmaster is actually easier than Mithras because of the tables. The tables are a lot more clearer to follow during combat, and you just get the result like really fast. And the combat overall is like really good because you don't have like in a sense a lot of crunchy numbers. You always have hit, and it has like distinct effect. It's not like, okay, so you roll for attack, then you hit, okay, then you roll for damage, and then it does X amount of damage. And now we see what the damage does when I reduce the damage from my HP. I have this many HP left, so what does that mean? Okay, I get a wound. So what wound, like, it doesn't have like different aspects and different hit points and different systems on top of it that you have to like look from the different page. You have the one page with the chart that you can follow, and that's that. So it's like, I would say it's much more like clearer system overall. It is really, really front heavy system. Like the most difficult aspect in this game is probably the character creation. It is percentile dice based, so it's really simple after that. But the character creation can be really daunting, and I almost gave up on the first time I was creating a character. If you want to have like this really simulationist, really like gritty fantasy experience, I would actually recommend this played in solo. If you don't have like, if you want to have like this kind of intimate adventure with only one character, and maybe like having interactions with different NPCs, and maybe fighting with one or two things at a time, highly recommend this. Hornmaster A tier, like really good, really good system. I would want to put it on S tier, I would want to put it on S tier, but it's like, it's really specific system, and it takes some time. Like if you want to play it, you need a little bit more time than usual to really like get into it and pull out your charts and stuff. So that's why it's not into like highest of the highest tier. Coffee break. Next we have a Symbaroum. Symbaroum from Free League, definitely one of my favorite game publishers right now. Symbaroum overall, I really enjoyed the setting and the world, like most people usually do. Almost like Nordic vibe, dark forest, fantasy like setting and world. The system in itself, I basically enjoyed it. I overall enjoy like player-facing systems where the GM doesn't have to roll that many dice. I know some GMs don't really enjoy that, but me as a forever GM, I kind of enjoy the freedom of that. I don't have to deal with the dice. Like sometimes it's fun to roll dice, but it's much more fun to roll dice when I'm playing like solo. But when I'm doing the GMing, I really like to just focus on the GMing. But overall, I would put Symbaroum maybe on the B tier, maybe even in the C tier. No, I want to put it on B tier because the world is so good, and you should check out Symbaroum just for the law alone. It's really good. But why it's in B tier is it's really combat focused, really combat heavy system, which is fine in itself, but I feel like that system could really have benefited to have a little bit more abilities related on like social skills and maybe scouting and maybe even like on survival aspects. But it was major of it was compatibilities. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I have read the rules and played the game, but yeah, overall like the system was a little bit underwhelming, especially now when you compare Symbaroum to like Dragonbane and Forbidden Lands. Like yeah, it pales in comparison. But overall, like, it's still a really solid game. The rules work well, and if you enjoy that kind of like really dark, almost horror vibe. So if you vibe with that, definitely like give this game a try. Oh, it's time to dive into the OSR with Knave, the Questing Beast flagship, if you may. I really enjoy Knave. I think it really it's the most perfect distillation. I think Ben Milton has like min-maxed the crap out of OSR rules. It's amazing how he was able to put all the most important rules in like few pages. He just makes bangers when he comes out with rules. Overall, really good. If you want to like, especially if you want to use it for what it was created, running classic adventures. If you just really want to have people like, hey, I have this classic OSR adventure that I want to run with you guys, and you have like a bunch of people who haven't played like OSR systems, this is really good starting point, and they don't have to like stress about all the classes and all the stuff. They can just come in, go and run some classic adventures. What comes to OSR rule systems, yeah, I respect Knave's rules that much that I will put it on definitely on A tier. Yeah, it's just it is one of my, if you want to learn about how to create or how to streamline your rules, give Knave a read. Like definitely that is how you write really detailed but still like really distilled rules. And talking about writing good rules, next we have again OSR title, White Hack. When talking about hacking systems, creating your own rule systems, modifying rule systems, writing supplements, White Hack has really been like the masterclass for me. It has inspired me the most on how to really take a well-known rule system and just maximize it and make it the clearest, most open-ended but still like mechanically pleasing as possible. Like I think White Hack is the ultimate rules mechanical wise on the OSR side. Like it really is great teacher in how much rules you can amp in without having any fluff. Like it's still really like surgically created system. It doesn't have any extra because it wants you to create your own stuff in it, and it wants you to add your own stuff. It's like, I'm here, this is all for you, this is a gift from me, mechanical gift from me to you, go and make it your own, basically. I really like that aspect, and still it doesn't like, it's not like a Cortex Prime that really just like throws you a box of tools and is like build your own castle. You have the castle there already, and it's up to you to just decide what's inside the castle, how the castle looks like, what are the defenses and stuff. Like it has really solid foundation, so you don't have to start to build the castle from bricks, but the castle itself is really modifiable. I want to put it on S tier. I really want to put it on S tier just out of respect of the rules and how much I have taken inspiration from it in my own writing, in my own rules supplement creation, in my own like game development work. I want to put it on S tier. Like definitely if you are a person who wants to like create your own supplements or create your own rule systems, have at least a read. It's a masterclass in like game design, in my opinion. Next we have Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Oh boy, I would probably want to rate this game higher than I probably will. If you want to play Warhammer Fantasy, this is the game for you. I really enjoy how brutal but fair it is, implementation of like characteristic and the professions. It's really min-maxes Paradise in a sense that you can basically percent by your skills, And the perfection in game design is that it only uses a percentile dice. Basically, it uses only 2d10, and everything you do in that game is determined by those two dice. And I really love that. How can you have this big of a game and you only use two dice? It's like, yes, and it works. It's really good. The combat is really interesting. The skills are really interesting. It could be a little bit more streamlined, but I also understand it has that Warhammer package that comes with it. There are like specific things that you have to add, even though they would not sometimes benefit the system, if you know what I'm saying. So that's why I will put Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay on A tier. And also, I really want to create my own worlds when I'm playing with rule systems. And with Warhammer, it's quite difficult. I have like played systems that are meant for specific setting, and sometimes it's a lot more easier to rip out like the world on top of the mechanics. But I think in Warhammer it's like so intricately woven into the mechanics as well, which is really good. That what's make this game also really unique as well. Pathfinder. Now we finally get into those extra tiers. With Pathfinder, I would love to play it, but I would hate to GM it. Like overall, I have had my fair share of like GM burnout. I really enjoy creating a lot of interesting areas and enemies and creatures, but if you give me all these different buttons to turn, I will turn them at some point. But because I think that's how the game is meant to be played. Of course, there are people like, you don't have to go, you don't have to be so complicated about it. But if you give me buttons to press, I will press them. So that's why like I would never have the stamina to create, like maybe creating a short campaign from level 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 even. But it's really meant to be played from 1 to 20. And I know there are already like these really adventure paths that it's really created to be played in those. But for me, then it starts to be a little bit more like a video game, and you can more easily play that kind of style of play with video games, which there's nothing wrong. I love video games. But when I'm playing tabletop role-playing games, I enjoy that it's a little bit more unspecific, that you can like fill in the gaps a little bit more with your players and with you as well. But I would really love to be a player if somebody is ready to see the effort to really like put the world together. It has so many interesting character options. That's why if somebody would be willing to GM it, I would love to play in a Pathfinder campaign. Next we have S tier game, Mouse Reader. If you are new to tabletop role-playing games, as a GM, as a player, I can't recommend highly enough this wonderful, wonderful game. This is the ultimate introduction to tabletop role-playing games, and I think the implementation of the setting, like this adventuring mice in this big world, it's just made so well. Your character is your stats and your items, and like that's it. The most important aspect and class for your character is that they are a mice. And also like the implementation that you are small creature in a big world has been made really well with the art style, with the rules. Like for some reason I just love this idea of being miniature character in this kind of giant's environment. It kind of implies that you can have adventures. You can just watch outside from the window and you can see like wonders and adventures like in every place. There can be a crow's nest that has a lot of riches, but the crows are also a cult that have like strange magic. Or you can have this underground tunnel of this sneaky snake that will come during the night and try to pull little creatures underneath the tunnels. And like it's like endless adventure, endless possibility, and the rules are so simple. You roll under your stats if there is something difficult. with weapons you only roll the damage dice, so it's really fast, really fatal. Like, you are just a mice and you will feel that really quickly. So it like encourages you to be sneaky. It encourages you to stay out of harm's way and try to be clever about it. The setting, the rules, the simplicity, and like just the sheer availability in its rules wise, it's pay what you want. So there's really like, it destroys all the barriers of entry. And it can also be played with like with a more mature group, and you can visit more mature themes, or it can be really made to play with like children as well. So there isn't like really any age barrier, any like group barrier. It's just a really good game. S tier. Definitely S tier. How are you feeling? We are not even halfway there. I have played quite many games. And these are just fantasy games, mind you. 10 years of role-playing games can fit quite many games.